I'm going to title this video, The Persecution of Bill Cosby. And that particular title strikes me deep in my heart because there was so much done in order to get this man to the point that he's at today. You want to go back to the 1960s, 1970s, people were partying, doing their thing, yada, yada, yada. Cosby, to his detriment, had a thing for screwing white women. And that has come back to bite him in the behind. Now, I have no doubt that he probably screwed at least half of them. And based on the reports, promised quite a few of them either career help or other types of help. It's been reported that he's actually provided financial support to some of them. But my problem with this whole thing is there's supposedly 55 women who have made various accusations, and at least 15 of them have been 100% completely discredited. Now, you got that ambulance chaser, Gloria Allred, representing, I believe, about 30 of them. And anytime there's a situation where a black man is involved with either another black woman or a white woman, Gloria Allred is Johnny on the spot. Now, that woman has issues, and it's not hard to understand. She went down to Mexico, got a little loose, and ended up getting raped down in Mexico and kept her mouth shut long after she returned to the United States. So she's basically got an agenda, and she wants to make every man pay for what happened to her. But be that as it may, for them to be able to go back 10 years, and I understand Pennsylvania has a law regarding sexual assault that the statute of limitations is 10 years, and they are obviously legally within their rights to go after him within that 10-year period, and they just filed charges against him under the wire. But there's a lot of things that went on here. Number one, he's never acknowledged the behavior that is being alleged against him. Even with this woman, Miss Constat, she's alleging sexual misconduct, and he's claiming that any type of sexual conduct was consensual. In my mind, that's a he said, she said situation. It took a couple of years for her to basically come forward. And even in the police report that was filed, Mr. Cosby didn't allege any illegal, quote unquote, sexual contact between the two of them. And he stuck to that. Now, you got all these other women jumping up and down, certain of them known liars like Beverly Johnson, and you do your own research on her, lying on Chris Nault and various other men. And you also have, I'm trying to think of that woman's name, you know, that drug addict that claimed that Sylvester Stallone was the father of her daughter, and he started seeing her a year after her daughter was born. And I can't even recall the name, I don't even care. But let's just go to the situation with Mr. Cosby and the fact that it took basically jumping through a lot of hoops in order for them to get to this point. Now, obviously, there was a situation with Miss Constant, and Mr. Cosby did what a lot of celebrities do. He settled with her in order to keep shit quiet. But he must have had a piss poor attorney, because any attorney worth his salt would not have allowed him to make statements that were or could be considered incriminating. That's one. But more importantly, the district attorney gave him what he considered to be immunity for being charged with anything. And the district attorney got up in court and said exactly that. But I guess that didn't count. And then the deposition that he gave was supposed to be sealed, but for some magical reason, Mr. Cosby's deposition must be like no other, because his sealed deposition magically became unsealed. And it wasn't magic, it was a judge overstepping his bounds and supposedly releasing a portion of the deposition, but a clerk somehow misunderstood whatever the instructions were, and the entire deposition was released to the public. Okay, that's fine. Still, there wasn't enough evidence, but it took a politically motivated person who was running for the district attorney, who decided that he was going to run on prosecuting Bill Cosby. Now, if that is not political motivation for that gentleman to be removed from the case, I don't know what is, but that doesn't matter, because the entire agenda was to go after Mr. Cosby. And this man is 78 years old. And I believe that they're hoping that the pressure of this is going to kill him. But I pray Mr. Cosby is stronger than that, and that once this gets into court, in front of a jury of his peers, and there better be some black people on that jury, he is going to be acquitted, if not the jury hung. Now, the jury hung is another story, because all they're going to do is keep coming back, keep coming back, keep coming back, and they're going to try to bleed him dry of his financial assets as they continue to come back. But I fall back to the situation where Mr. Cosby was getting ready to do a special on Netflix and also a special with NBC, and for whatever reason, the powers that be decided that they did not want that to happen, and that's how this bullshit unknown comic decides to make a reference in one of his routines about Cosby being a rapist. Someone happened to videotape that portion of the skit and post it to YouTube, and then somehow the damn thing blew up. Now again, I'm going back to all of these lying women, each of whom decided not to go to the police, each of whom decided that if there was sexual intercourse involved, that Mr. Cosby was safe enough that they didn't have to go to a doctor, and each of whom decided that they didn't need to tell anybody because they were afraid of the powerful Bill Cosby. And that's a load of crap. If there's one thing that all of these quote unquote aspiring women would have been able to do, it would have been they would have been able to go to the police and state that a black man raped them, and you would have had SWAT teams all over Bill Cosby's house. No black man in the history of America has the kind of power that they were claiming Bill Cosby had. So, you know, that argument that they're making is bogus at best and crass at worst. So now this judge has decided that Mr. Cosby is going to have to stand trial. And the arraignment date is in July. Mr. Cosby has some excellent attorneys, and I believe that they are going to be able to plant the seed of doubt in the minds of the jury, and they will find him not guilty. But that won't be the end of it. They're going to continue to come after him. Now, they've already destroyed his reputation. Now they're after money. But the 55 women can't get a dime, so they're going to try to find some other avenue to try to deplete his assets. And again, I think that avenue is hung juries and then consistently retrying him to try to delete his assets. I'm sorry, in my opinion, and that's not going to change because there is no physical evidence available that proves beyond a reasonable doubt that Mr. Cosby is guilty. So I am going to continue to be a supporter of his until either he or I draw our last breaths. Mr. Cosby's only sin was that he should have stayed away from all of those white women. Take a page out of Herman Cain's book. All he had to do was be accused of inappropriate behavior with a white woman, and he was out of the running for the presidency of the United States. I mean, he dropped like a rock when that happened. Take a look at Justice Clarence Coon Thomas. He's married to a white woman, but he was accused of sexual impropriety, but it was with a black woman. So because he had a super conservative history, the Republicans were backing him, but I blame the Democrats because they were the ones who basically allowed him to obtain the position that he's in. You look at O.J. Simpson, found not guilty. Now, his situation is one of stupidity, where he went back to try to reclaim his own property and went about it the wrong way. And now they're doing all kinds of O.J. Simpson documentaries and TV shows, all in order to keep his name in public view and push the narrative that he actually was guilty of murder, so that when his parole comes up, he's unable to get parole. And it seems to me that anytime there's a powerful black man, he's going to come under attack. The one guy that they'd love to get is President Obama, but they can't get him. So at this point, they're willing to settle for any other black person of means that is not a person that they're able to influence and have do their bidding. This is a travesty. So many things have been changed, and they're talking about changing additional laws to expand the statute of limitations on rape cases, and I believe the statute is approximately 10 years. I know it's 10 years in Pennsylvania. They're looking at trying to extend it to 15 to 20 years in various other states, all in an effort to get this man. Now, I'm going to close with this. Black men without means have been convicted, served 10, 20, 30 years, and when DNA evidence is tested, have been found not to have been guilty. But they didn't have the means that Mr. Cosby has. The system is rigged. The system's rigged against people of color, especially men of color, because we're feared for our virility and our sexual prowess. We just need to keep our heads on straight and make sure that we know who we're dealing with. And if you're gonna mess around with people outside of your race, you better make sure that people see you in public, see you holding hands, acting lovey-dovey or whatever, and if possible, get your friend to make a statement to your friends about how good things are when you hit the sack.